keeping yourself together when times get tough. I'll talk about that in just a second. I worked with a lady a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, that really inspired me. She was good friends with a particular Catholic priest at her church, and he had gotten a terrible diagnosis of cancer. It was terminal, and there wasn't much that medical personnel could do for him. And she told me stories about how she would go to visit him to try to lift his spirits. And she said, every time I go and see him, he lifts my spirits because he's so positive. And I didn't meet this man, but I kept hearing the story up until the point he passed, how every time she would see him, that he would bless her, even though he was the one in a terrible state of sickness. And that has really stuck with me over the years. You know, sometimes it's kind of hard to deal with life when things aren't really going the way you want them to. I mean, it could be sickness, it could be a job situation, it might be a breakup with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or a divorce, or some sort of happening with your kids. Who knows what it might be? Could be a difficult thing at the job. You just never know. This life is full of things that just make us go, I don't know what I'm going to do. But how do we deal with that as a Christian and in a positive way? How do we put a positive spin on something that's just normally so negative? You know, you really got two choices. Choice number one, you can be a negative, horrible, downer, pessimistic, awful person that everyone would like to help but can barely stand being around because you bring them so down. Now, is it normal to be down about things? Let's say you get bad news or something bad happens. Well, of course it is. But you know, as a Christian, we really have to work at not staying down. You know, I've seen people go through things that are unspeakable, and somehow, they still manage to reach out and show kindness to others. And I'm always so impressed by those folks. The other choice we have is to focus on what God has given us to do. You know, we're all here for a certain amount of time, and none of us knows how long. Might be another 50 years, might be another 5 minutes. We don't know. And the thing about that is we have to really focus on presenting who Jesus Christ is to others. Now, that's really easy to say when you're sitting in a car on a sort of sunny day along the side of the road and things are going okay for you at the moment. But that's awfully hard to do when you're in a hospital bed, or you're standing at the mortuary, or you're outside of a home that you've just lost, or you've just been laid off. It's a lot harder to do there. It sure is. And I appreciate that, and I understand that. We all have tough times, but what we do with those times can really make a difference. You know, all the people I see, so many of them are more impressed with how Christians deal with tough things than how they deal with easy things. My dad's a good example. Whenever he has to go to the hospital for something, whether he's had a lot of surgeries over his life, he's always cutting up, making the nurses laugh. He's always having fun wherever he is. You know those ridiculous robes that they make you put on backwards and all of that? Well, when I'm talking with my dad, or I take him somewhere to have to do something like that, he's always making jokes or laughing and cutting up, even if he doesn't feel good. And I asked him one time, I said, you know, how are you so positive like all the time? It's so funny all the time. And he said, you know what? He says, I try to have a good time. It don't matter where I am. I think that's the Christian attitude. You know, Jesus saved your soul. You ought to have a good time no matter where you are and try to make somebody else laugh. Boy, that's good advice. I sure hope that I can be that way as my life progresses, and I hope you can too. Have a great day. Be kind to each other. See you next time.